Well, welcome back, America. You're watching Q News tonight. Before we continue with the show, we want to tell you an interesting thing that has happened that has not happened to us before. The entire location here has gone down and the show interrupted. And I'm here with Misty Eyes and Napoleon Plays. Any thoughts about what you do when you're live and you live in a digital sphere and everything goes down?
Well, I have been an entertainer for the last 23 years, and there's been many situations where emergencies and tragedies happen, power shuts off, radio stop, no sound system, and we did exactly what we should have done. Wait and keep going.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for this to happen to Trump. He's had a news conference every single day for like 4 hours every day. I'm just waiting for his camera to go off because someone's just tired of watching him and just clicks it off.
I honestly, I think the Republican National Committee is behind whatever has happened here. But America, we're letting you know this is exactly what happened to us. This has never happened before. I guess there are some differences in digital broadcasting, and we have just
It's live.
It's live.
Live.
It's very live. All right. We are doing coronavirus quarantine quickies, and we're reporting on today's statistical facts. So we're in testing. We're going to pick up exactly what you haven't heard yet because you saw the broadcast interrupted. But testing today, through today, in America, we've tested 7,200,000 and approximately 25,000 tests have been taken. It sounds like it's a big deal, but it really isn't, honestly, because there are 328 million Americans, which means that President Trump's delivery from his March 6th promise of anyone can have a test that wants one, well, you really can't. Only 2.2% of you have been able to do that, and medical experts recommend that we need a 10% level of testing of Americans to reopen. We want to tell you about the top states, however, that are doing an above average job. We call it the Top States Hall of Fame. As of today, number 3 is Massachusetts at 4.5%. I don't know what it is about the Cuomo consortium group of states in the Northeast, but they're dominating the country. Number 2 is New York at 5.0%. And number 1 is little Rhode Island. They just keep chugging along. They're now at 6.8% of testing. Then LGBT America, we hope you don't live in any of these states because this is our testing hall of shame. We have some new states that are falling behind. Number 5 is South Carolina. They've only tested 1.3%. Now, to give you context, that means if you live in South Carolina, only 13 out of every 1,000 people are being tested. Number 4 is Ohio. Number 3 is Arizona. Number 2 is Kansas. And for coronavirus, the number 1 place is still poor Puerto Rico. It's the worst place to live in America if you're concerned about coronavirus because for 9 consecutive days, I think approximately, they have only tested 0.38%, which means almost nothing.
Quarantine quickies. Gilead CEO says remdesivir available this week. We've donated the entire supply. Gilead Sciences' coronavirus-fighting drug will be in the hands of doctors and patients as early as this week. The biotechnology company CEO said Sunday, quote, "We intend to get remdesivir to patients in the early part of next week, beginning to work with the government, which will determine which cities are most vulnerable and where the patients are that need this medicine." Gilead Sciences chairman and CEO Daniel O'Day told CBS Face of the Nation, quote, "We have donated the entire supply that we have within our supply chain, and we did that because we acknowledge and recognize the human suffering, the human need here, and want to make sure nothing gets in the way of getting this to patients." Gilead expects to produce more than 140,000 rounds of its 10-day treatment regimen. And by the end of May, it anticipates to make 1 million rounds by the end of the year. Shares, by the way, of Gilead Sciences are now up 25% this year.
Quarantine quickies. Trans woman sets herself aflame to protest the government's horrible COVID-19 response. A transgender woman in Georgia set herself on fire to protest how her government is treating transgender people during the coronavirus pandemic. Madonna Kiparotse set herself on fire in front of City Hall in Tbilisi and was captured in a Facebook video that was posted on Planet Transgender. Police chased her and took off her jacket, which was on fire, before they arrested her. Georgia has a poor record on LGBTQ rights and is especially poor on trans rights states' protections.
Quarantine quickies. Donald Trump warns COVID-19 deaths could reach over 100,000 in the U.S. Now, President Donald Trump has warned that the U.S. death rate or death toll from coronavirus could reach 100,000, revising upwards his estimate on the number of people that the outbreak could kill by tens of thousands. Quote, the president said, "Look, we're going to 100,000 people. That's a horrible thing. We shouldn't lose one person out of this." Did I say that as insincerely as he said it? Trump said, speaking during a Fox News virtual town hall. But on April 20th, Trump said the figure could be 50 to 60,000. By this point, there had been about 40,000 U.S. deaths related to COVID-19. At the same time, internal administration documents show that the federal government had ordered more than 100,000 body bags on April 21st. Earlier on Sunday, Dr. Deborah Birx, who is coordinating the White House's response to the pandemic, said her predictions had consistently been that up to 240,000 Americans could die in the pandemic, saying, quote, "Our projections have always been between 100 and 240,000 Americans lost, and that is with full mitigation and the U.S. learning from each other of how to social distance," she said on Fox News.
Quarantine quickies. World Health Organization representative, a vaccine for COVID-19 cannot be reasonably expected until the end of 2021. A vaccine for COVID-19 will not be ready until the end of next year, according to Dale Fisher, chair of the World Health Organization Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network. That timeline would be a very reasonable expectation because of necessary phase 2 and phase 3 trials of any vaccine to guarantee both safety and efficacy. Fisher explained there would also need to be a ramp up in production and distribution, as well as actually administering the vaccine. He said, Fisher also said President Donald Trump's comments on Sunday that he was confident a coronavirus vaccine would be developed by the end of 2020. We're a bit premature on that. Now, tonight we bring you a mini sample of Q&A on coronavirus and the LGBTQ community. Every Thursday night on Q News Tonight at 7 p.m., we have experts here to answer your questions that need to be answered. We invite you to join our special Facebook group and ask all of your questions. Tonight we give you a sample of one of the questions a viewer might have asked. And we will do that live on Thursday as well, when we have medical providers and experts here to answer your questions.
Q's Q&A. A viewer asks, after you contract coronavirus, can I be released from quarantine after 21 days? And as a follow-up, can I still be positive after 40 days? America, every Thursday night we do the Q's Q&A with medical professionals, and these are samples of the kinds of questions that you can ask. What do y'all think? If you've had coronavirus for 21 days, is that it? And we're out and about.
I would definitely not want some random and arbitrary number to be the determining factor of if I or anyone that I know is out and about and they could still be contagious. We need testing to show if somebody is still able to spread this virus, and just deciding that it's 21 days and then people go out doesn't really help anybody. What you have to know is that you actually are past the part where you can be contagious to other people, and whether or not that's 21 days or 200 days has to be determined, but I would want to make sure that anyone that goes out has that testing
How do you
done.
do that if there's no testing?
That's part of the conundrum, isn't it?
Okay.
A conundrum indeed. And you know, as far as I know, I'm definitely not a medical expert, but I would think that we keep hearing 14 to 21 days. So I would assume that after 21 days of testing positive and staying home, you should be okay to leave now.
And what about the second part of the question? Is it possible to, have you heard any stories of people continuing to be positive? Not reinfection, but continuing to stay positive.
No, but at the same time, there have been so few studies done and reports done on people that already have this. It's always who can contract it and who has died from it. We don't hear anything about that in between of the lifespan of when people actually have this and what's going on with it. And maybe there's just not the resources to devote to it, since there's not the resources to devote to anything else, apparently.
I agree with Napoleon. I think I've heard a lot of people, and people I know, that have tested positive and then recovered, and that was that. I have heard of many people going and getting the antivirus test to see if they do have the antibodies. That's what I'm talking about, the antibody test. But I've never heard of anybody. I've heard of people being reinfected.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard of anybody staying positive.
Well, it's something that we for sure will follow up on Thursday when we have Dr. Grossman here to ask, because he's gay as a doctor, very renowned in HIV, as the National Executive Director of the HIV Health Institute. But also importantly, he transmitted and contracted COVID-19 very early
in March,
and has recovered from it. So we'll follow up that question of the 40 days. We would like to thank tonight our set designer here. We're broadcasting at the World AIDS Museum, Concepto Modern Living here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this Living Museum's set possible. Tonight we're also broadcasting, as I said, from this studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center. And the museum is located here in Wilton Manors and Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
We joke, but it's true, especially tonight, as all three of us and Aaron are back. We're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth.
We queue up our segment called Good News. When we finish Quarantine Quickies, we like to lighten it up. We've reported all of the statistical facts and the major news in bullet point of the day, but we like to look at some of the better things happening, and we call it Coronavirus Good News. I have several stories tonight. Coronavirus Good News. Drag side pickup is available at an Indiana restaurant. The Michigan City of Indiana, a restaurant called Fiddleheads, is now offering drag side pickup. Customers can order online or by telephone, and when they arrive to pick it up, a drag queen will bring it to your car. Owner Aaron O'Reilly, a gay man, says this is a creative way to serve customers, and it's not just a gimmick to increase sales. He says, quote, "This is fun. This is to put a smile on your face. This is to show that better days are ahead of all of us. Be lighthearted and take some pics from the comfort of your car. We are all in this together, and we'll get through it." And that's what he said. And that is making this Q News Tonight's Coronavirus Good News.
We're still practicing social distancing, and we just thought that it would be a good idea to brighten some people's days with having something that's a little different and a little fun.
The response has been actually a lot of fun, and we've gotten a lot of good positive feedback, and certainly we're selling a whole lot of food today. Hey, do you have a name on your order?
We've got lots of orders, lots of people driving by, so we're happy.
It's just a good way to get out, even though we can't go in or whatever. Them bringing it out and just getting to talk with them is just a fun experience.
Little Katy Perry is, I know it.
Coronavirus good news. Gay Anderson Cooper, you are the father. Anderson Cooper is a father to a healthy baby boy. During his weekly coronavirus town hall on Thursday night, the CNN anchor announced he welcomed a son, Wyatt Morgan Cooper, weighing 7 pounds 2 ounces at birth, and praised his surrogates on Monday. Quote, "On Monday, I became a father. I've never actually said that out loud, and it's kind of astonishing to me. I'm a dad. I have a son, and I want you to meet him." And that makes this Q News Tonight Coronavirus Good News. Watch this.
It's been a difficult time in all of our lives, and there are certainly many hard days ahead. It is, I think, especially important in these times of trouble to try to hold on to moments of joy and moments of happiness. Even as we mourn the loss of loved ones, we're also blessed with new life and new love. So I just wanted to take a moment and share with you some joyful news of my own. On Monday, I became a father. I've never actually said that before out loud, and it still kind of astonishes me. I am a dad. I have a son, and I want you to meet him. This is Wyatt Cooper. He is 3 days old, He's named after my dad, who died when I was 10 years old. I hope I can be as good a dad as he was.
Coronavirus good news. Oprah and Jon Stewart surprised 2020 graduates on John Krasinski's show. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the graduating class of 2020 won't be able to physically walk at commencements across America. But on the plus side, exactly one graduate gets to ask Oprah Winfrey for life advice. And through the power of John Krasinski's Some Good News YouTube show, everyone with internet access can reap the benefits. Oprah joined Steven Spielberg, Malala, and Jon Stewart on John Krasinski's Good News for some one-on-one time and some new grads, and that means that this is Q News Tonight, Coronavirus Good News. Watch this.
Learning all about you. Oh my God, you are one of the most impressive people I know, let alone someone being so young.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you know this person. She's a huge inspiration to me. And this is, I don't know if you know Malala.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
In the country's history?
Yes, that is correct.
Here's the deal. I'm not smart enough to answer your question, but I do know someone who is. She's an inspiration of mine, and I hope an inspiration of yours. I don't know if you know this person.
Amanda!
Oh my God.
John!
I love the outfit.
So nice to meet you, man. Thank you for submitting a great question. And I do have someone that I think can answer your question very well and bring some enlightenment to your life. This is a friend of mine.
Oh my gosh. John.
Hey, man.
Hey, John, how are you doing? It's the three Johns.
This is a John. We're going to swap a lot of stories when we go on the road together as the three Johns.
The world isn't so supportive of them.
My question was, if you can tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? Well, now that I'm asking it to you, the question was, think about a time in your life that felt like a low point at the moment, but actually changed everything for you.
Oh, I so love that question. It feels like therapy.
My question, as I'm a graduate, is now what?
Now what?
Yeah. Now what?
Let me tell you something. That is the question.
I love that story. We continue at Q News Tonight by queuing up religion, and we report that former Pope Benedict XVI has attacked gay marriage and links gay marriage to the Antichrist in this rare interview. This was just reported out today. We're going to show you a little background video on it, but what do y'all think about what the former Pope said about the gay community and gay marriage and linking it to the worst of the Bible and religion?
You know, I'm not very surprised by this. I remember, what was it, like 8 years ago that he had stepped down. I think it was like 2013 because of sex scandals in his own church, that he was actually stepped down versus retiring, which is what popes generally do. But I remember when he, I'm going to say took power, since that's essentially what the pope is. He was a Hitler Youth, and you would have thought at that time that that indicated something about him. But all of the press was saying, no, 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 he's good to minorities. Clearly he's not, because he's very anti-LGBTQ. We saw that in his actions, and his legacy still lives on as he perpetuates that.
My mind is all over the place. First of all, the Antichrist, isn't that just one person, not an entire race of people?
Oh, it's our president.
If, possibly. And if God was against gay people, why would he create the gay gene? It's genetic. You can't fight it. You can't change who you are. You can not practice your sexuality and your sexual orientation, but you can't change what you are. I don't get it.
It surprises me. Of course, this was an older interview. It was a rare interview, but it's old. It indicated what he thought through his entire papacy. But it surprises me because he is dealing with the Catholic churches all over the world, most of which have legalized gay marriage. So he's fighting law, which to mention it so harshly surprises.
But he cites 100 years of precedent where people, because he's saying that homophobes, people that are anti-LGBTQ, should not be excommunicated. That was a quotation from him. And he cited 100 years of history as to that case. I'm not sure if Christianity wants to recite history as to being and getting people on its side, but it's clearly troubling to hear that.
We are continuing queuing up the world and headlines today. Brazil's leader Bolsonaro, attacks the World Health Organization, claiming, quote, it encourages childhood homosexuality and masturbation. What do you think about Donald's best friend in South America, what he has said?
It's very interesting because many gay people go to Brazil as tourists or just to go there and have fun for whatever reason. And while they are very anti-trans and have the largest number, I believe, in all of America in terms of trans violence and deaths, they're a big country, but still have that nice little factoid about them. What he wants to see happen is to have LGBT tourism, especially gay tourism, not come to Brazil. So even if it's money, which most people still want the gay dollar, even if they don't agree with the gay lifestyle, he's still saying, no, if you are gay, don't come here. Now, come and fuck our women was, I think, the exact quotation from him. I might be paraphrasing. But if you're gay, don't come for anything of that, which is shocking to hear from a world leader, though maybe it's not. We live in America.
Wow, and you are correct. Brazil is #1 in the world for trans hate crimes. Yes, I'm just retweeting what you said. It is true. But I think this is another leader thinking out loud before... You're not supposed to speak and think at the same time is what I'm trying to say. You're supposed to think and then speak. He said, the World Health Organization encourages childhood homosexuality and masturbation. Doesn't encourage mean, hey, everyone, you should do this? I don't think the World Health Organization has ever told anyone they should do that.
Well, and first off, what the hell is wrong with childhood masturbation?
Who here hasn't masturbated as a child?
Every medical health professional, psychologist would tell you it is completely natural. To shame it in any way harms the young adult. Yeah. Let's use young adult because childhood is specifically an incendiary word for an intentionally done. Also what we're watching in Brazil is the epitome of toxic masculinity. And that's the basis of the president of Brazil's basis of making this claim. We continue by queuing up business tonight and one more story about Ellen DeGeneres. Her former bodyguard is accusing her of being cold and demeaning. Let's just collectively talk about Ellen DeGeneres. What's the value and point of all of these stories? Napoleon, we know what a fan of Ellen DeGeneres you are, but what is the point of all of this, and why are we fascinated with this this relatively silly headline that she's cold?
Honestly, I have no real idea as to why. Maybe it's just the idea that you believe that she's going to be the person that she is on camera, though nobody is the person that they are on camera when they meet her. And they because they're fans themselves, meet her and have this idea that's shattered because she is a role model to so much of the LGBTQ community. I don't know anybody that meets Madonna and is like, oh my God, you're an entitled prick, and I'm surprised by that. Apparently that's just the natural thing that happens. But with this gay icon specifically, people expect her to be one thing, and then when those hopes are, I guess, shattered, and it doesn't even sound like shattered, it sounds more like, oh, well, she didn't say hi to me and just kind of blew me off. She doesn't seem to be doing anything negative. She seems sort of neutral toward it. Maybe it just destroys people's sense of identity of what the LGBT community is capable of.
Yeah. There are many, 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 many onion layers to every person. This individual that wrote this story was her bodyguard one time at the Oscars where she was hosting, and he protected her and her family that was with her. Now, when you're an entertainer, there are many facets of you. And like, for example, when I've done beauty pageants, for example, before the beauty pageant, I tell the people that are helping me, I usually have one person that helps make sure my hair looks good in the back and whatever, and steam my dress before I go out on stage. And I always apologize right before the performance. I'm going to be a bitch, and I am so sorry, but there's intense, immense pressure on you at that very moment. And I don't mean to be a bitch, and I'm going to take you to dinner after, and we're going to celebrate whether I win or lose, but I'm going to snap. Give me this, give me that, do this. No, my shoe, now it pinches, and you're going to do that. And this was a live event. Of course she was under pressure. Of course she wasn't the happy, giggly MC that she is when she's on the air for her TV show. I think this is entirely unfair. Most entertainers are one way to the public, like you said, but also in real life, many entertainers are shy and agoraphobic, and that's not fair.
Your story about you competing in pageants and what you say and the reaction to you. Have you ever seen me at Q News Tonight?
Before every broadcast.
Or just anywhere, maybe.
All right. Well, we move out of the topics that are important to the LGBTQ community. And now we end tonight's broadcast with what we call the Big Finish. It is short story mentions of LGBTQ news and news of a gay perspective. So, first up in the Big Finish, George Takei, trying to convince bigots to stay home by claiming COVID-19 turns people gay.
Well, first, my favorite game is just watching Al pronounce things. I could watch that for hours without popcorn.
Without popcorn.
George, sci-fi legend. The do-nothing Democrats can never be accused of doing nothing again. Just look at you, fighting fire with fire and lies with lies. But let's stop for a second. What if this is true? Because I have a whole list of guys I would hope get it if this were the case.
Can you imagine if this were true? But George, I also look up to you as an icon and a role model. Please, shh, be careful. The mindless followers believe anything you say if you repeat it enough.
Where did we learn that? Yeah. It seems almost scandalous to me to applaud a Star Trek star on Star Wars Day. But I have a secret, America. I've always liked Star Trek better anyway. Oh my. We cue up the Big Finish by saying today is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.
You sounded so sad saying that. I wish that we could acknowledge other gay fiction as much as we seem to acknowledge Star Wars and Star Trek here on Q News Tonight. I mean, yes, today is May 4th, but did we celebrate Mean Girls Day on October 3rd? What homo didn't want to be in the Auron Host Club? Does Dumbledore's beard turn you on? And who isn't ready to fire it up with Iceman? Gay nerds have other days. This is to nerds what Cinco de Mayo is to Mexicans. Something that's completely made up and not necessary for us. We've got enough else.
That's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. And I'll be fired up then, too, with Iceman.
Oh, but I'm still laughing at October 3rd, Mean Girls Day. That is, I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I remember it in the movie. What's the date?
Erin Samuels turns around and says, what day is it? And she says back, it's October 3rd.
But I'm sure you meant, is it Monday or Tuesday? Anyways, remember, I'm with you. Al, by the way, I do like Star Trek a lot more than I like Star Wars. But remember that one time in 2019 when the Disney-owned Star Wars Rise of Skywalker had a 2-second lesbian kiss between minor characters in the background? Baby steps. Little tiny baby steps. Keep trucking. Where Star Trek has been doing controversial LGBTQ things for a long time.
You know what, America? I'm going to rebel to this entire conversation. May the 4th. Who the fuck cares? Let everyone else have their Star Wars Day. Every day is Star Trek Day to me. And you know what else? Captain Kirk was way hotter than Han Solo could have ever hoped to be, especially Chris Pine, especially in that reboot where him in his underwear, remember, and the green girl, diversity and hotness all delivered together. The Big Finish, happy trails to fierce LGBTQ plus advocate and Scott's lawyer Derek Ogue, QC, dead at 65.
All right, I know I speak for a lot of people when I say this. These kinds of stories are exactly why Q News Tonight is so important. I didn't know who this person was. I know a lot of pop icons, I know queer performers, I know a lot of major events in gay history, and I know international happenings that are going on right now. But I don't know enough history of the people on which soldiers I stand in terms of our community. And especially not living in Scotland and not knowing how he did so much, and essentially founded the International Lesbian and Gay Association through a series of steps. These are the kinds of things, and I encourage you to look it up, that make this show as valuable as it is.
The important thing, if you don't know who this individual was, in Scotland in 1974, when the gay LGBTQ crimes were no longer illegal, he made an effort to get these people that were in jail out of jail and unconvicted of gay crimes when they were no longer illegal. I think that's beautiful and amazing. And now that marijuana is almost legal in every state, maybe we should let some people out of jail for that.
Yeah. I believe his name is pronounced Og. Mr. Og was a titan in the LGBTQ plus rights on the other side of the pond. From the 1970s and on, he fought tirelessly for decades to end the criminalization of sex between men in the United Kingdom and was even honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Equality Network in 2015. I doubt many in our audience even knew his name, but when people use the phrase, "We stand on the shoulders of giants," he is the type of man of whom they are speaking of. Rest in peace, good sir. The Big Finish. No Context Monday. I'm beginning to really enjoy this. Did you know we are kicking off May's Masturbation Month, right with our steamy Party for One playlist? It's a true thing.
Where's this playlist and who created it? I don't know what makes it steamy, but if it was you, Al, I don't want to watch any old man porn which thinks of a hand job in a movie theater as edgy. Where's the beef?
I don't know where this playlist is either, but I would definitely want to hear it. But I do know the song that it's based off of, Party for One. This is a little girl singing a song about masturbation. And it's basically, I don't remember, I've only heard the song a couple times, but it's making love to myself, back to my beat. Go, girl.
It is May Masturbation Month. But I don't know how Napoleon's Google search history got into our show. I simply don't like it. Cue up The Big Finish. Happy 91st birthday to Audrey Hepburn, who passed away in 1993.
I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit that I knew the name, but the very first thing that I actually saw, no, I know her now. Now I'm an old man. But before that, the first thing that I ever saw Audrey Hepburn in was a Gap commercial, where she did her iconic dance in the all black. And I didn't know that she was such an LGBTQ icon again until I had to research it way before this show started. But with happening on television, I know My Fair Lady, but I know the play version and Pygmalion more than I know My Fair Lady. And eventually I've gotten it. And Breakfast at Tiffany's. Again, I heard the song before I knew the movie. But that just shows you what kind of an icon she is. Her legacy just ripples out from the things she did into other medium and content like advertising and movies and music. That's rare for anyone.
The rain in Spain lands only on the plains. She is statuesque. She's a beauty. She's an icon. I used to have one of her big pictures in one of my dressing rooms a long time ago. But did you know that she played a lesbian in The Children's Hour with, I believe it was Shirley MacLaine?
When I hear a millennial say, "I didn't really know Audrey Hepburn," millennials, and a little tear goes down my cheek. Audrey Hepburn's star continues to burn almost 30 years after her death. Statuesque was put in Webster's dictionary thinking of Audrey Hepburn. There is perhaps no one who wore clothes as well as Miss Hepburn, nor anyone who has inspired so many in our LGBTQ community with pure natural grace as Miss Hepburn. I think the thing that endures most about her for me, though, is how in 1961 she starred in a movie based off that play that you just talked about on The Children's Hour. It is breathtakingly beautiful. She was truly one of a kind, and even long after her death, still happy birthday. The Big Finish. On this day in 1979, Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, the opposite of Audrey Hepburn, by the way, who gay men adore, becomes the first woman to be elected Prime Minister of the UK.
And we're still not there. 41 years now afterward. We have not had a woman as our president, even though you could say that technically happened 4 years ago. It just didn't actually happen. I know that we're talking about gay icons in LGBTQ history, and of course, Meryl Streep, who played her in the movie just a few years ago and won the Oscar for it, made her even more known to so many people. And while she may not have been the most kind-hearted person to people that spoke to her face-to-face, her legacy is truly what lives on. And Al, that reminds me a lot of what you are, as a compliment.
As a compliment,
I heard it.
True. Yeah. She was one of the very few conservatives who voted to decriminalize homosexuality. And incidentally, she was also pro-choice as well and used to tease George Bush she said that he was using abortion as political football. And that's one of the reasons why she was down in our history books as being pro-LGBT.
That's right. Margaret Thatcher was clearly, when I was growing up, she was a force to be reckoned with in British politics and for decades, with her policies reverberating even today. Her famous nickname of the Iron Lady was given to her by the USSR, a journalist, from her over her rigid politics. Which served her very well in the Cold War era. She was one of the earliest examples of strength and boldness in leadership from women, and she was an example of both women as well as to women, as well as to the LGBT community, that the times were changing. Ever heard of Nancy Pelosi? Dreams could be had. In that decade that followed, while our community was hollowed out by AIDS epidemics, many things did change for her election, and they seemed to indicate bad things. The one thing that did not change, politics. Despite winning a third term in 1987 and going on to serve as the longest serving prime minister in the 20th century, she was backstabbed from her own party and resigned in 1990. He probably won't listen to me, but perhaps this should be a lesson to Donald Trump. No matter how great a leader you think you are, if you leave the wolves to starve, eventually they're going to eat you too. And the wolves of America are looking very, very hungry in coronavirus, Mr. President. That is today's news for the LGBT community and the world's first daily LGBT evening news show. Remember, if it's important to the LGBT community, it's important to Q News Tonight, but you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the world, and your community needs your support. We've proved tonight how live we are. You're not alone. We'll get through this crisis. We are here with you, and this is Q News Tonight. So thank you for joining us, and I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of my partners Misty Eyes and Napoleon Plays, we'll see you tomorrow night at 7. Test. Josie, can you hear me? Josie, if we have problems with your sound, when I cue up to you and say good evening, you talk for 30 to 45 seconds on your T's, and they're going to flag back to me before I pick it up to close the promotion. Do you understand? We're having some problems with sound.
Yeah, I know. I can hear it on my end.
Okay, and I just heard you. I hope that that'll be the case. All right?
Okay.
Because we can hear you, we could probably hear her.
Yeah. Yeah, just count me in and we'll start.
4, 3, 2.
Today on Q News Tonight at 7 p.m., we have very special breaking news on coronavirus.
It's happening out, and Top Chef reality star Chef Josie was set to return to the show live this Wednesday at 8 p.m.
She was set to announce this Friday that she is running for political office on November 3rd.
As you know, we lost Ron Brunensky to COVID-19 last week, our host, after a near 6-week ICU stay in medically induced coma. Chef Josie was the only Happening Out television anchor that tested positive of coronavirus and has been in medical quarantine for 40 days. To prepare for both of those events that I just mentioned, she has been retested, and the results shocked all of us. America, we welcome our friend back, Chef Josie. Good evening, Josie.
Hi, Al. How are you guys? And hi, Napoleon. Hi, Misty. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
We're great, Josie.
So, I wanted thanks for inviting me back here today. I have something really important to share with everyone. Today, I received mystifying, if not shocking, news. While distressing to me, it's really important to each and every single one of us in living in this moment of a COVID moment. I can't express any deeper the confusion I am experiencing in the moment. And I think that it's going to be very important to share this information with all of our viewers and our community. We must be prepared.
Well, this evening on Q News Tonight, we are going to have this exclusive interview with medical professionals and Chef Josie live and explore these new developments that she just referred to in the coronavirus pandemic that we have not heard or reported on before. This story is going to shock you and puts Florida and America's reopening plans under new examination. Will she return to It's Happening Out on Wednesday? What becomes of the planned announcement for running for political office? And which one might that have been? And most important of all, how does Chef Josie's news from the quarantine affect the millions that are or will contract coronavirus and have followed every medical recommendation, just like Josie, from our show, the CDC, the Coronavirus Commission, and that Donald Trump has told us? You do not want to miss this. It affects all of us. Exclusively on Queer News Tonight at 7 p.m. You want to make sure you tune in.